Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of
We Can't Stop Snapping. Amazing episode for you guys, coming hot off the release of Sage. We've got a new take on one of our tier lists that I think is going to be very interesting to just talk smack about the current meta and the cards that we think are too overrated right now.
Overrated?
Ooh,
including
spoilers.
My favorite card?
Including your favorite card, we might have a call out just for you.
Yes. I love getting
Brad,
called out.
What's been your biggest playtime right now? In terms
as far as like decks go?
Yeah.
I still keep finding myself revert back to this Hellfire list.
Ooh,
and
nice.
It's still so interesting.
So that's Zemo, right? The mill?
No. So I did a version with Zemo, but the one I landed on was the move one. Has Nightcrawler, Spidey, Jeff, and all that, like in Miles, with the Infinite War Machine package and then Black Bolt stature. I don't know, man. It's just, it feels good.
Yeah.
I need to do a video on or something like that, or I need to convince someone who's a much bigger creator than I am to do a video on it so that we just have it randomly influx the meta.
Yeah, right.
Because I love that. I love it when that happens, because then you're like, who made a video? There's no reason this deck should be being played as much as it is, but someone did it.
The content creators have an insane grip on like what the meta is in Snap. It's really interesting. I feel like it's more so in this game than in other games. Also, I'll confess, I set you up with that question because my most played deck just recently has been this Tempo Destruction list in Screenplay, a different CCG, just released into early access on Steam. It's free to play. You guys can check it out if you want something fresh. It also has simultaneous turn planning, which is one of the reasons it really caught my eye. And then it has variable win conditions because you draft, it's all like cinema based. You draft different lead characters that all have their own win conditions.
Oh, I've seen this.
I think it's really clever.
I saw it months ago, when it was in like an alpha or something.
Yep. So now it's in early access.
It's okay. So it's not full release yet?
Not full release, but it's completely functional.
Can I ask something? What do you consider, and what is the general consensus behind what entails in early access? Because it's not a beta.
Right.
It's not out though.
Nope. But it is. Right now, I think of early access almost like full release. It's a full release when the devs say we are still working on the game. You have two kinds of full release games here.
You have an ace up your sleeve at all times, like a get out of jail free card.
Your get out of jail free card is like,
this game is really bad.
It's early access. We might change a lot of things, but it's a full release because I feel like at this point, like if you're not in on these early access games and then they go into full launch, like if I hear a news article like, such and such left early access, and I'm like, I missed out on so much, there's no shot I'm catching up kind of stuff. Like I'm actually like of that mind, but I'm also a content creator, so I'm hooked like full cult of the new. Like that's kind of warped my perception too.
And then you have some games like Arc was in early access for its entirety of its existence, and then they're like, Arc 2's coming. We're like, it still says early access when I launched the game.
Exactly.
They've released like 5 full-fledged DLCs while it's in early access. I'm pretty sure it's not in early access anymore, but it was in early access for a unfathomably long time.
Yes.
And now we're getting the second one. So
yes,
if you like Power World, you can play the OG Power World with dinosaurs instead of Pokemon.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, pals. Please don't sue me, Nintendo.
No,
I'm so sorry.
Easy.
Oof.
We know they're watching.
Hey, you know what? You joke, but I truly believe in my heart of hearts that Nintendo has like spies watching everything. Like that sounds like the most awful job, because it's like you're hired to just watch all forms of content.
Keep brand integrity for Nintendo.
Yes. Be ready to copyright strike at a moment's notice. They have a red button on their desk.
Oh, no.
Oh, I love it. All right, Teddy. Well, we got to talk about some new cards that we just had come out, because a new season just started, gracing us with 2 new cards. Many new cards. So we have the first week we talked about Nocturne and Blink, but even though Blink's been out, for a while. She still feels the newest to me. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I apologize for misspeaking and saying 2 new cards. We only got one new
think
card in Sage.
her decks have been evolving a little bit more, and Blink is kind of rising, seeing a lot of play rate. Like, she is not dropping off.
Right.
She's doing very well for herself. A lot of on the back of the change of Leech being such a great curve to go Leech into Blink. We talked about this a little bit last week, but it's just become more disgusting now. In my Sage testing, Sage is a non-reveal. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a non-reveal that I hold until the end of the game when everybody and their mother plays Leech? I don't get it. I'm trying this Mr. Negative deck. Mr. Negative, by the way, he felt good, but he's unplayable into Leech. I hit, without trying too hard, a 20 power Sage. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. Held Zola in my hand and watched it dreams disappear.
Hey, it's a card we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But yeah, Sage is surprisingly decent. My thing was like, as long as she's a 3/6 at least, or a 3/8 is where you really want her to be.
Yeah.
But if I hit her on a 3/6, I'm like, that's kind of what I want. That's above rate. So, and oftentimes you're not really doing much. It's just like, I happen to play a card. She's also great with White Widow, by the way.
Oh yeah,
great with White Widow, because like
powers.
you're guaranteed to make her a 4 with that. So just playing like a 1. Well, I guess you can't do 1 because most of them are 2s, but you know what I mean. You can play with it. One thing I've noticed though with Sage, it's kind of like the yellow bug thing. Have you ever heard of this, Teddy? Where if like you go out and buy a yellow beetle or a bug, you start to notice people drive yellow bugs way more than you thought you did before, because now that it's in the forefront of your mind, your subconscious no longer treats it as that and hides it from you. You start noticing it.
Yep.
There are a lot of 3-power cards in this game.
There are
a lot of 2 3s and 3 3s.
Yep. That's why
I'm just like, I
Lady
keep like,
Strike is
what
so
is
effective.
happening? Right. It's like really crazy. The amount of times I played Sage, and I would look like, how big is she? I'm like, why are there 4 3-powered cards in this lane?
The location is full, but there were 2 different power levels.
Right.
Just everybody played 2s and 3s.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think Sage is I don't want to call her surprising by any stretch of the imagination. She's slightly better than I gave her credit for.
What she is. Like, that's the thing. She's effective. She's just kind of right at rate or a little above. She does, honestly, I think she does better than Gladiator. We're going to talk about Gladiator. It's like, man, we're spoiling everything.
Oh my God. Dropping spoilers all over.
Like, that's what Sage is. Sage is just, if you don't have a core combo piece to your game plan on 3 that you want to curve into, hold Sage. Play Sage. If you can fit her into the deck, or you want to combo something on a later turn, like you don't have a big 6 cost that you're going to be, you're going to be dropping at the end, play Sage. And because with Leech being so high play rate right now, Shang is falling off for the first time ever. So that means that Sage, even going bigger than 8, is free.
Yeah, I also like Sage a lot in bounce, by the way. Being able to pick her up and then do it again.
That was one of my more successful ones, yeah.
Don't play her in negative, it's bad. Or just don't play negative.
No, negative is the bad part. Like, her in there is fine.
I just found myself going like, if I don't draw negative, this deck is really bad.
Well, this deck is Wong into Sage into Zola. That's the deck. I guess Wong into Mystique into Sage into Zola's.
Yeah. Well, Teddy, last week we talked about obviously the OTA that occurred. With the second dinner loving to hit Darkhawk for the 20th time in a row.
Right.
To everyone's surprise, because everyone's like, well, I thought Darkhawk would. Nope. Apparently second dinner's like, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
I tried it. It is still good.
But of course, as always,
why is it always the green guys?
It's always the green guys.
Have you heard D-Money's song,
our boy Leech. Let's get some extra insult in here by showing the pixel the entire time.
No.
So it's insulting to me because this is part of the All-Star album, and it's the most recent pixel I've acquired, and that was like 3 weeks ago. And I've yet to see, thanks to all these new albums, there's like a new Dan Hip album, like a new Rian Gonzalez album. There was a Kim Jacinto album, I believe, as well.
Yep.
And I think one other album. Every time they do an album, Teddy, they do like a shop takeover. I just can't get I actually want these stupid pixels. I need 3 more. I need Ask for Biceps Juggernaut. I need Invisible Woman, and I need Mojo.
Right.
I've yet to see any of them in my shop. I just want the stupid emote.
I just want Hood.
Right.
I'm still on base art Hood for my favorite card in the game.
You don't have a single Hood variant?
No, sir.
There was a bundle not too long ago that was like $15 in the Newverse shop that had a Hood variant.
Yeah, little did I know I was gonna have to spend real money to get one.
All right, well, Anyway, Leech got a buff, and people are really upset about it after a week of Leech. But I think, in my opinion, it's accentuated a bit due to Blink.
Yes,
because without Blink, Leech isn't as good as people think. Leech is still very good. He dumpsters a lot of decks, but
I think that Leech is like balanced, about close to balanced at 4-2. He's annoying, but taking the tempo hit on turn 4 is a big deal. If you were actually taking a tempo hit and not setting a trap card that's going to evolve into its final form of a 6 cost.
Right. You just randomly turn this 4-2 Leech that's supposed to be balanced in the sense of losing tempo by putting 2 power on one of the most important turns of the game.
And then turning it into Magneto, who now is free because you leached their Shang. Like,
right. So
you can't. It's crazy.
So I had an idea that I pitched to you about Leech, because we've seen all these people online throwing out ideas for like Leech and how to change them. I thought of it right before we started recording, and it's really weird. So let's move Leech all the way down to a 1 cost. Okay, remove the on reveal,
give it
and
a Hope
make him like a triggered ability, right? And similar to Hope Summers, he's a 1 cost. Make him a 1/1. I don't care.
Sure.
That says whenever you play a card here next, not the next card, however they want to word it, right? So it's not like Shuri, where if you play a card away from him, it misses timing. It's at any point in the game, the next time you play a card here, then you leech their hand, remove the text from cards with on reveals in their opponent's hand. So that's 2 things. It makes him telegraphed for the entire game, so the opponent's always aware of it, and always has to be the idea of like, okay, do I play these now? Do I play these later?
Yeah, so you have to put some kind of next turn stipulation on it.
Right. And then on top of that, the Leech player can choose to hit their early game or hit their late game with giving the agency back to the opponent, because again, it's telegraphed. And the other thing is, with being a 1 cost, Leech suddenly becomes very vulnerable in the sense of Killmonger, and I guess even Elektra can be played in the sense. Because if you remove them, then now they can't do it. So,
right.
Or also on top of that, what's his name? Red Guardian can hit him now too. In that sense, you can hit him with Red Guardian.
Yeah, and he's going to get played early and then camp out.
Yeah,
I don't know. He still sounds super annoying. I've also seen the suggestion that his turning off of the abilities would only apply for 1 turn, and then they would come back on. So if you go early, then their turn 6 like comes back online, or you play him on 5 just to hit the turn 6 rather than getting him early. So I think there's some levers Second Dinner has, but he's still very meta warping, and maybe it's just time for us to like, I don't know, grow a little as a meta and play some more ongoing to be able to get around the Leech.
Seen a lot of ongoing with the Ultron buff.
Yeah, so if we could just see, I mean, on reveal
and,
is
Claw.
Yeah, I mean, Claw's good enough to play right now. But yeah, we've just seen so much on reveal dominate. The problem that I see with that is that pretty much every tech card and counter play card is on reveal. Without, you have Cosmo as the only like control ongoing really. And so if you shift to a meta of a lot of ongoings, you still just, with Leech, you're shifting into a meta with no tech cards. And that I don't think is where we want the game to be.
Right. And the big thing is, I think the biggest thing, like the reason I like the idea I was suggesting as the one cost that like needs to have something else committed to it. That also makes it so that the blink interaction is just gone. Now, of course, making him a 5 cost again does that same thing. But the whole reason they wanted him to be a 4 cost, as they said in the notes, is they wanted him to attack cards like Annihilus, Cannonball, etc. So
the Cannonball was a funny call out. Nobody's playing Cannonball on 5.
It's always on
Not
6.
seriously, it's 6. But Annihilus is a great call out because he was running the meta, and you're like, I want to get my control out early, and I don't want it to run a combo of energy cheat into Leech. Just having Leech to shut down these 5 pivotal turn 5 plays is good. But it turns out overall in the game it's bad.
What if Blink was a 6 cost instead?
Blink? That's an interesting call out. Does she justify being a full on 6 cost card? I think she might. That effect, I could see it being printed on a 6 cost and I wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah, I mean, like, but then how many 5 costs do you think? Well, there's White Tiger, right? White Tiger is a good, like, is the best one I can think of as far as like swap it out for something bigger. I don't know if you can think of any
end up in combo world with the 4s, like, or still playing Leech, honestly, but Leech on 5 just doesn't hurt as much. Or Jubilee, like Jubilee into your blink is still great.
Right. It just kind of discourages the perfect curve out now.
Yep.
It's making you play a bit off tempo. But hey, now you can just play this in a high Evo deck instead, and then be like, oh, I want to play off curve. I want to be able to float my whole.
It also makes it harder for the blink to have as many good targets in deck the longer you go in game.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've even seen a resurgence of Domino of all things to keep more big bodies in the deck to get Jubilee and Blink hits to be more reliable.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Domino, because let's show off the new tier list that we're making right now. We'll explain this in just a moment as far as the tiers go. But we should
start with the tiers. The tiers are Starbucks, iPhone, Tesla, and then just whatever your favorite thing happens to be. So we're covering overrated cards.
Yes. So whatever you think of as like the most overrated thing, this is what we're going with. And Domino's in here, like Teddy alluded to, in her own tier as like an honorable mention, calling it dishonorable Domino.
I think this has to be a bubble. Like, a significant portion of the top like 500 of the ladder is playing Domino in their Blink Jubilee deck right now, and I can't imagine that's correct, and I can't imagine it's going to stay.
Yeah, I agree, because now the idea that they're going for is like, well, if I have Domino always drawn on 2, that gives me an extra turn to leave my big stuff in the deck for Blink, but you're also making it less likely you draw Blink herself in these circumstances. So I am with you on this. I don't think this is very good. And this is, if anyone looks back on this is going to date this video.
Be crazy. But no, here's the thing. The deck is good, but it's not good because of Domino.
No, it's kind of like another card that we have in this, in the holding area.
Bring it up.
All right. Well, we're going to start with Pixie. I'm putting Pixie in Starbucks. I am going all the way immediately. Pixie is one of the newest cards on this list. Actually, looking at it, besides Blink in here, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, I think she is the newest card in this list. I find Pixie to be so overrated because there was that Pixie and Nihilus deck that was everyone and their mother was playing in Conquest, on Ladder, stuff like that, and people were like, it's so good, as well as Pixie was in High Evo for a long time, at least one of the versions of High Evo. People are like, it's Pixie, she's so good, it makes your Hulk 2, it makes your Annihilus 1, oh my god. Look, I played that Pixie deck with Annihilus and the High Evo deck, by the way, before that, plenty of games both on Ladder and in Conquest, and I can count on a singular hand how many games within the dozens upon dozens of games that I played with both those decks that Pixie made a huge difference. More often than not, it's just, I'm playing the best like engine / shell in the entire game in Hood, Annihilus, and Sentry. I am already doing pretty well for myself. On top of that, I'm playing very good interactive 1-drops.
Right.
Good tempo 1-drops like Nico. And then just Red Hulk at my top end. It's like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that's pretty good.
Everything around it is amazingly good.
Pixie's not the reason those decks are good. You cut Pixie and Mobius out. I mean, you could even keep Mobius in because Mobius is just good against a lot of certain decks. It's an auto win. Like negative, for example.
Yeah,
you
that's
can
the thing. Is
take
like
it out.
the Pixie Mobius is the strong part of it. If you just play Pixie, then you get this mixed bag. When you play Pixie into Mobius, then you're looking at some serious improvement. And in a meta, that's more meta dependent on like how much leverage Mobius is giving you naturally. Um, I have to say, I quite enjoyed my Pixie Annihilus days. I'm not playing it much anymore. Um, and yeah, Pixie is, I feel like, yeah, just married. Her success was married to the Mobius's effectiveness in that deck, which sometimes was
Right.
really good. And right now in the current meta is not as good.
Sure, sometimes it was really good. I agree. That's why I said but I could count on a single hand how many times she made like the game matter.
Yeah.
She was the reason you won. Like I told you this one where it was I played Pixie into Mobius 2 and 3, and on
Yep.
4, I drew a 1-cost Red Hulk and I had Nico in hand. Nico's ability was add a copy of the next card you played to your hand. And
It's
I was like,
so
oh,
crazy. It's so
don't
good.
mind if I do. And
Oh, yes.
that's one of the few games where I was like, Pixie, you did great. I'm so proud of you.
Won me that
But
cube.
95% of the other games were just, I do simple thing of turn 4 Sentry to turn 5 Annihilus. They don't have Lady Deathstrike. They don't have a counter. Oh my goodness, I win game. It's not that hard. Like, it's just wild to me. So yeah, we're starting off strong. Which one you want to call out next?
I'm going to call out Gladiator.
All right.
Gladiator is one of the top played cards at the moment and has a negative win rate, my friends. A negative win rate when played. We can just do better. I don't know if it's like power creeps. Yeah, we're figuring out where we want to drop him. You want to go? I'm going to go iPhone. Like, this is crazy that a card that's seen this much performs so poorly.
Yeah, I will. I will agree to a certain extent. I think Gladiator is a card that okay. I've done this a few times on the show, and every time I've done this, you've laughed about it, or at least been like, "Oh, you're attacking the audience." Sometimes when you lose with Gladiator because you played him, it's a skill issue because you're playing him in a situation where you're going against a deck that you should not be playing him.
And
a great example.
He is not referring to the Can't Stop Snapping audience. He's referring to the broader Snap community at large.
Correct. Think of Hela, for example, right?
Yeah.
Turn 3 rolls around, you identify your opponent's playing Hela, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to slam down Gladiator.
Glad
and then
on
you
curve.
Yeah.
Death? No! How could it have happened to me?
Oh my goodness. Like, that's a skill issue, my friend. Don't play Gladiator there. I'm sorry if it was your only 3 costs in hand. Don't play him.
It wasn't
Just don't.
worth it.
Save him for the last turn.
Save him for the Loki matchup when he's free, man.
Exactly. And even Destroy, too. Like, there are some matchups where Gladiator is the freest card imaginable. I love playing him against Destroy because when you hit that null before nothing's gotten destroyed yet, and you're like, oh, my heart, be still. It's so
even
good.
If you pull out like a Venom and he blanks on what he eats,
or you pull out a what's it called, a Carnage or a Deathlock onto the Venom,
on top of something,
and just waste it.
Yep.
Like, Gladiator's a great disruptive tool in there. But yes, I do see what you're saying with him being overrated, though I will push back a little bit and say he's overrated because some people are just bad at the game. Or I guess not bad. Let's not be too mean. I think more so most people are just average at the game. And I think it's a very average thing to do by just saying, I have a 3 cost. I will play 3 costs on curve, you know?
Right.
And Gladiator is just one that's seen played the most.
Where did you want to go next?
I want to go with one that is near and dear to my heart. I'm going to say Debris.
Ooh.
Because I will always, to the end of time, hate seeing Debris in both junk lists and, of course, Patriot lists. Patriot more so, because I think she's just a bad card. I think she's a good component for our Tesla tier just because of Cannonball. If Cannonball didn't exist, she's an iPhone right next to our friend Gladiator. Truly.
Yeah.
But because Cannonball exists, I can see I can see a reason for playing her in that deck. I still wouldn't, but I see the vision. But the idea of like, my rocks get buffed from Patriot, I want to clog them. It's bad. She more often than not is bad. The amount of times I see people play her on Camartage or Sinister London and then lose because she clogged their side of the board, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Right. I have beaten this card more than I've lost to it. On top of that, I've beaten this card by not doing anything more often than not. I've just let my opponent play her and then put themselves in a corner and go, oh, I can't play anything. Yeah.
Oh, no. Who would have thought?
The consequences of your own actions have reared its ugly head. Congrats.
The consequences of my own actions.
Yeah. So debris, as I knock my drink into the mic, is Tesla.
Next up, we're going to roll Nebula. I see Nebula as like the plug-and-play one-drop of choice at the moment, and I just don't think that she deserves it. You have so much flexibility and power that you can get out of your one costs. And Nebula right now, especially with Kitty and Jeff and all these flexible cards being so possible, is not really scaling to the force that you want her to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go probably Tesla again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I still think she's pretty good, but remember, just because a card is on this list doesn't mean it's a bad card. Overrated does not mean, oh, it's actually bad. Overrated just means you're giving it a bit too much credit. You're giving it a bit too much love. Let's bring that down a bit. However, I'll say Debris is just bad. I stand by Debris being a pretty bad card. Like it's like I'm sorry to backtrack, but Debris is like that card where it's like, but when she works, she's so good. I'm like, yeah, that's every card.
No, here's the thing. When she works in Snap, technically she's not even that good because your victory is telegraphed, and then you will have a low cube gain.
Yeah, look at that. She's bad in every way, shape, or form.
Double whammy there.
So I want to find one that's probably more equivalent to your favorite thing. I want to find a tier for that. Yeah, I was thinking Spectrum too. Yeah, I'm thinking Spectrum goes there. Spectrum's overrated just because whenever an ongoing thing occurs via an OTA or something like that, it's always a Spectrum list. That's the first thing people will try. And
somehow.
And I always love seeing people do the thing where they stack the lanes and stuff like that with like Mojo, Ant-Man, and Spectrum's like, you can just tell it's a Spectrum deck.
Yeah.
And you're mathing it out and going, okay, 2, 4, 6, 8,
Colossus.
Cool, 2, 4, 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this isn't really going to win if they play Spectrum. So, I should be fine. And you're like, surely they retreat because I just did the math. It wasn't that hard to do the math. I can count by 2, Teddy. Can you count by 2?
Right.
Look at that. It's pretty easy.
You're behind by 10. Here we go.
Yep. And then you look at the top, like, that's an 8 cuber. Okay. That's 8 power. All right. Well, let's submit. And you win 8 cubes. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Do people just not count? Like, I understand some people with like, Living Tribunal, they're like, oh, I don't have time to do the math of like, Iron Man Onslaught Tribunal, which by the way,
this will quad and then divide by 3 and then average out the.
If you have Invisible Woman, Iron Man, Tribunal, and Onslaught in a single lane, and those are the only cards you have, it's 26 power or 25 power.
Yep,
one of those.
Welcome.
There you go. So quick math for you. But do the math, my friends, especially when it's easy math. Please, it's a counting game. There's 3 lanes. You can do the math for 2 seconds.
And Spectrum is fine. If we ever get a world where we can get tokens spawned with ongoings, Lord help us. But until that happens, the deck just feels like it's getting played a little bit too often. And even
Teddy,
those ongoing decks, I think, could have some better high-end with Onslaught.
There is a token that has ongoing. It's the Widow's Kiss.
Oh, well, that doesn't count. It's on their side.
Hey,
do we need reverse? We do need a reverse Viper, the card that pulls one from their side to your side. That's like a 6-cost power level.
Is it? How many?
It's at least a 5-cost.
Yeah, you're stealing a card. I understand.
Like that's so big.
Yeah,
I'm surprised we don't have that as an effect yet.
Well, maybe it's on the docket. All right, he's been staring at me for too long.
Yeah.
Jeff, this is yours.
He kind of had to be here.
I agree.
So here's the thing: we both agree that Jeff is very good, but
I agree.
he's also achieved a cult status that I think is beyond what he deserves, especially as other 2-cost cards get adjusted and other effects get into the game. You're
Is
putting him
he?
all the way at the top.
I think he might be the number one most overrated card in the game.
He is the number one most played card currently at 32% from Snap.fan,
Right.
which is insane.
And like Jeff is, again, we acknowledge, a very good card, the most flexible card in the game, the best card to just be like, I don't have a 2-cost to play, I'll put him in the deck. But with all that does come the fact that he's not always the greatest thing to be doing.
Yeah, you can have, depending on your deck's game plan, a lot more power out of some more specialized cards. And you can still get great flexibility out of other cards as well. I think also like Quake is severely overlooked, giving you location manipulation instead of the play flexibility of Jeff. And I can just
Hey, maybe tune in next week or the week after for our
yeah,
underrated list.
there we go.
I can already think of two costs that make that one. Quake's one of them, and Medusa's
Yep.
the other one.
Yes.
So there we go.
You got options. You got options,
Also,
but right now Jeff is like running. It's like 11 card lists and Jeff, and it's like, all right, we can do just a little bit better.
Also, for the record, I like Starbucks, but usually I like, the junk food version of Starbucks.
Man,
I don't go there for real coffee. I go there for the diabetes.
We saw the ads for their new summer drinks. Went in like,
ooh, refreshers
Idiot
are good.
Sheeple, got 2 of them. It was
Idiot Sheeple.
75% ice.
Are we a right wing podcast now, Teddy?
$7.50 each for 75% ice. Real hard to suck up the boba at the bottom of that glass when it's all ice. I found out.
Yeah, they do. It's like
there've been some other like coffee shops that are little like, they're still chains, but they're not as big, that have opened up in the area that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
Summer Moon and Seven Brews. So that's where I'm going.
I like. There's one local to me that's called Aroma Joe's. I don't know if that's just it's a chain from what I understand. There's multiple. It might not be like corporate chain, but like they have multiple locations, like 3 or 4, to my knowledge. Then there's one that's literally just called The Coffee Shop that's near my house.
Okay.
That's really good. It's like a mom and pop. It's a mom and pop. It's fantastic. It's so tucked away in a corner I could never get to. I never go to it. But I was gonna say, did you see the Dunkin' Donuts thing where like they have signs like for the Dunkin' Donuts like in Europe now, where it's like Europeans don't really normalize having ice with all their drinks. Usually it's just like the drink, and they had to put up signs in the Dunkin' Donuts that say ice is required. Like they're not allowed to not put ice in.
Right.
So everyone's going like, what?
Because everybody's ordering no ice.
Right.
And they're like, I will not fill your cup up all the way then, because my pricing is for this to be half ice. And they're like, excuse me? Yeah.
$8? Please? Can I have some more? Just make your coffee at home. It's fine.
Exactly.
Anyway,
if you cared about budget, you should be anyway.
Right.
Who's up next? Max?
Maximus. Not the 3/7 Maximus.
Yeah, this is the 2/6. That
this list has still not been updated.
Right.
Whoever was updating it stopped in early April and said, that's enough.
I'm probably going Tesla because like his play rate is not that high, but he has a negative win rate, my friends, and he's played plenty.
Okay, hold on. I can tell you exactly why. Okay? Yeah. 2 reasons.
Okay.
When Maximus was played, prior to Mill coming out, he was played primarily after he became a 2-cost in Sarah Control, right? A 1/6 late in the game, super nice little power output for a deck that doesn't have a lot of power. Similarly, you could say the same thing about Gladiator, by the way.
Right.
Now, then Milk comes out with Baron Zemo. People start playing Maximus because they're like, I want them to draw the cards so I can make their deck empty and then pull things down with Doc Ock.
Right.
I thought that was a horrible idea. Whenever I was playing against a Mill and they went turn to Maximus, I was like, thank you.
Because you're giving them combo pieces potentially on curve when they would have missed them otherwise.
Right. The other thing is, now with Blink, especially with people playing Leech, I'm seeing people play Maximus saying, you want a Maximus on 2, so you hit more things with Leech now. And
Okay,
it's like,
yeah.
this philosophy is so backwards thinking, and they just ignore the fact that you're giving me a draw 2 in a
Draw
game in which I
2.
only have 12 cards in my deck.
Yeah.
If we went back to playing Maximus as he should be on turn 5 and 6, primarily just turn 6, he'd be way better. But because numbskulls are putting him in to play him on turn 2 and be like, well, it's making my Leech better. It's making my Baron Zemo better. No, it is not. No, it is not. It is not. Stop it.
It's making
Stop
their
playing him.
overall game plan better as well by whatever
Right.
any logic you want. Honestly, like if you're worried about the Jubilees and the Blinks, play Yandu or something,
Right.
that's going to then thin and force them to draw more
Yeah.
expensive
Just
cards.
don't play Maximus in your mill deck. Please.
Yeah.
I'm begging you. Stop it. Stop it. Man.
All right. You picked Bast.
I did pick Bast. I'm probably going to put Bast down here on favorite thing.
Also, like lower play rate, we understand.
Right. But Bast is like a thing. It's like people put a little bit too much stock in it, in my opinion, when it comes to like bounce and stuff like that. The primary home being, of course, bounce. Don't get me wrong. Bast is phenomenal when you draw her. She's really, really good, really powerful, good effect. C3, same thing. But it's not the end all be all of the deck. And I think people treat it as such, where it's like, even to the point of like, if I don't draw Bast, I feel way too far behind. Or they might even hold on to their hand a bit too long and not play cards out because they're like, oh, I have such a good Bast hand. If I just draw one, if I draw Bast, like this is insane. And they skip out on turns 1 and 2 where they could have played that hood already and had a demon and already played the demon and not have it get hit by Bast. It's just a little weird and a little backwards thinking sometimes with Bast. People kind of tunnel vision with this card. I acknowledge it's a good card, but a little bit, especially in its heyday, a little bit overrated in my opinion.
Right. Its potential upside is so high, but you don't want to sacrifice your early tempo in decks like that, so it'll hold you back. And now we've got the Silver Surfer. I threw this on here because Silver Surfer has turned into some kind of bizarre evergreen. Every time a 3-cost card releases, people are like, what about playing this in Surfer? And I'm like, but why? Surfer is not good enough anymore to justify warping any kind of meta perception of new cards releasing, in my opinion. Like Surfer is such a known commodity. He's fine. I think he's actually significantly off meta at this point in Snap's like lifespan, going in the Tesla tier here.
I'm putting it Tesla just because of that conversation is so evergreen. I think it deserves to be a little bit above the bottom.
Yeah.
It's just like every time a new card comes out, even when Sage got changed to a 3, everyone's like, Surfer?
Ooh,
Question mark?
Surfer? It's like also a minority of people that do that. I understand. I think plenty of people don't care, but the conversation always happens. And because I'm on stream and I get people bumping in and out, they all have to know how good the card is 5 minutes before it's released, and they all have to know how well it played with Surfer. And in the exact same vein as Mr. Negative here, or do you have a story?
I want to. So yes, Mr. Negative is definitely in that camp. I would actually put Mr. Negative in Starbucks because of that. I think it's the most evergreen thing ever. But I want to focus on Surfer for a second because I'm laughing because I remember it's showing the old ratings for all of these cards, right?
Yeah.
And Loki is one of them. Remember when Loki was spoiled and people were like, Loki Surfer deck, play Loki Surfer.
Apparently, you could drop the Surfer part of that. You had way better deck.
Exactly.
Way better.
If you just take Surfer out in all the other 3 costs and just put in
almost every way,
pretty much completely different cards.
Yeah.
The deck is significantly
You're
better.
on the right idea though, man.
It's just that one card, Loki. You're almost there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Negative I'm putting up in Starbucks simply because the evergreen idea of people saying, well, they can't make this card in terms of balance a 0 cost because then you're going to break Negative. Second Dinner is so far and away removed from the idea of ever breaking Mr. Negative. You cannot break this card anymore. You cannot.
He's locked at as an off-meta pick.
So bad of a card because when you get him to go off and you get your cards and you're not worrying about your opponents playing Mobius here, right? First, you have to dodge a Mobius deck. Mobius has a
Then you
pretty
have to
decent
dodge
play
a
rate.
Leech.
You have to dodge a Leech. And then, if you really want to get it going, you want to draw your Jane Foster and get all your other cards. But then when you play Jane Foster, anyone who stays in that game deserves to lose their 8 cubes.
Their hand size went from 3 to 7? Yeah, man.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about this one.
Bring it.
So, like, this is such a mediocre card. And every single time I see, like, again, we saw it with Sage. Sage became a 3-0, and people were like, negative surfer even
Oh, that was a thing like 6 seasons ago. I tried it, guys. It's unplayable with Leech. Can confirm.
Yep. And even with Leech not in the meta, it's still pretty mid for the most part. So yeah, Mr. Negative, bad. But a good card, Teddy, is indeed Loki. However,
yep.
I'm putting it up in an iPhone because
That's high.
It is pretty high.
Very good.
He is very good.
You can similarly argue, it's him and Jeff, right? You could argue that they're some of the best cards in the game, in addition to being probably a little overrated.
Yep. My reasoning is
or a lot overrated.
Every single time we have an approaching OTA or balance change, or it might just be randomly a Wednesday in the middle of the week with nothing going on, and content creators got to pay the bills too. Got to get content,
for content, man.
Right?
Yeah.
I always see content creators, like, whenever they post like their wish list of like balance changes, there's one constant. It's death, taxes, and Loki being mentioned in these wish lists. Always. They're like, and Loki should lose his -1 thing every single time. It's the same idea too. It is the most evergreen thing I've ever seen since Loki's release, of like, we need to change him. He's still too good. And I'm sorry. I understand when you play against a very good Loki player, you're like, well, I guess I lose. And that can feel bad. But like, he's not that good where you need to just nerf him into oblivion. He's already a 4-cost. And yeah, if they have Quinjet down and you see Loki hit the board, you know what you can do? You can leave the game. You can leave the game. You can just retreat for 1 cube.
The tactics from Brad hit us again. What
can
you do?
It's insane. It's so crazy that you can just leave the game.
No.
And I had someone today mention this, and I was like, yeah, you can just retreat. I mentioned that exact thing with the Quinjet, and they're like, is this what you want like every Snap game to be though? I'm like, brother, it is already. The very fabric and the nature of Snap being,
you should recognize killer combos and leave. It's
right.
Pattern recognition and probability calculations.
Have some of these people forgotten the tutorial that they played a year and a half ago or 2 years ago that said at the top, if you ever feel like you're losing, you can just retreat. Retreating is better early instead of later, so you lose less cubes. The tutorial literally tells you this. It is encouraged to retreat.
If there is a combo that always wins and happens early, that's where it can be too oppressive, or a combo that's not telegraphed enough for you to get information on retreating. But I don't think that Loki's combo is so oppressive that, like, there's some hands where I'll be like, yeah, I'll play into it. And there's some bad matchups for Loki, specifically combo heavy decks, where he doesn't get enough pieces to score the combos as well as you did. And he's actually almost downgrading his game plan to match you. So that's where I think that Loki's in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, the only time I remember looking at Loki and going like, oh, I'm a little nervous is when I'm playing a deck with Shang-Chi.
If we can find a way to nerf Loki only when Lambie plays Loki, I'm okay with that.
Well, don't worry about that. Lambie's not even playing Snap right now.
For everybody else,
Lambie's playing that NFT game.
Yeah, what? I didn't even understand what that was.
I don't either. I've seen Lambie and D-Money play it.
Okay.
I haven't even bothered looking at it.
Interesting.
They say it's good, but they're also paid to say it's good, from my understanding. Sure. Look, I will always encourage my fellow content creators or anyone in life to get their bag. Get their bag.
Keep it fresh.
But yeah. Okay, next. Artem Zola.
Definitely overrated in most all the packages he's in. He's pretty greedy.
Tesla?
Yeah, maybe even iPhone, man. Like the destroy versions with Zola, I just don't like as much.
Yeah, they do worse
Exactly.
overall. And like, and then the other thing is though, like he's so annoying. I guess he should have been on the annoying tier list when I think about it, because I
He
just
probably should have been.
whenever I'm
He's got the
playing
sound effects
against,
and everything.
well, yeah, cut off
Cut
one
off one
head,
head, and two more shall take their place. And
which is a
I'm a
great.
computer in the middle of a chest.
They should change his voice on it and be like, "I am a Nazi."
No, we are. I think we're a PG rating. We
Uh,
cannot. We
uh,
don't want to talk about where he came from.
yeah, it's just like Red Skull. But anyway, it's so funny when like you go against him and you see the setup. You're like, it's a Knoll that got down early by himself in a
Yeah.
lane, or a Venom. And I'm
I
like, oh, that's
wonder.
an Artem Zola. That's an Artem
I
Zola play. I got to
wonder.
play around this. And then you play around it and they don't have Artem Zola.
Oh
And
yeah,
then there's
that's
games in
great.
which you're like, I'm not going to play around it. They got to make them
Yeah.
have it. They have it. Like,
Right. So it's
oh,
incredibly annoying, but yeah, I think overall these decks will do
it's too greedy.
just as well, if not better, with another couple tools. Either make your early combos more consistent or go for something else just to drop more power on, because it's so vulnerable to control. The Zola's not really going to pay out long term.
Right. I think he's still a fun card. I love
Oh, yeah.
doing Wong, Mystique, Black Panther,
Zola.
Zola. That's
Big
so great.
numbers.
And the best thing is when you play that deck and your opponent's just like, I'm not running a single combo or counter card in my deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to watch them do this. That's why he
Right.
was. That's why Black Panther or Wong, I'm sorry, was in our
Yeah.
annoying list. So
Yeah.
look at that. Doom. Okay,
Time has passed you by. I'm sorry, my friend.
I'm gonna put him an iPhone.
The fives are just not cutting it in modern Snap.
I agree, and
Remember when he actually got nerfed to 4?
that was
Then he
crazy.
was on the way out. Then they watched modern Snap, like power creep, call it what you want. The combos are, it's partially power creep, and then partially combos are just now more effective because you have more specified tools that slot in synergies, right? So it's not just that the individual cards have raw power numbers that are higher, it's that you can build more cohesive packages with all these special effects. And Doctor Doom is just a general blanket +5 all lanes. It's not what he used to be.
Right, and like you say it's like more so focused on the fact that like there's better synergistic qualities to
Yeah,
cards and their abilities rather than just raw power. But raw power has been bumped up as well. Like
it
we've
has.
already had the joke that even Marvel Snap themselves made that joke. Glenn did about the 3-5 being the new 3-4. 3-5 is just the norm
Yeah,
now. Like
it
it's the
is.
new vanilla
It
stat
used to
line.
be in beta days, if your deck could make 50 total power, you are winning the majority of your games.
Right. Now sometimes 90 total power is a losing game.
Uh huh.
Isn't that
Depending
crazy?
on the combo.
Um, so yeah, like Doom just doesn't really do it anymore, and especially when you have Red Hulk as I feel the best generic 6-drop in the game.
Right.
Um, I just think Doom has fallen so far out of favor, but people love just saying, "Oh, if I need to put a generic 6 cost in my deck because I'm not running a synergistic deck that has a 6-drop in that archetype, I'm gonna pick Doom." Don't do that. Just don't.
Right.
It's not very good. Now, I will say though, in particular shells, such as Lockdown, where you're storming
So
and stuff, I
that's
still
where I'm going to
find him
come back
okay.
at you with just run Claw now. Like, Claws
That's fair.
feels punchier.
Yeah. Especially because I almost always storm the right lane anyway, because
Right.
I
It's habit.
always Nebula there.
Yeah.
And I almost always used to play Storm with a junk deck, where I would send the Void over on the far right lane in the
Yep.
Storm lane.
That way they couldn't fill it up and block.
Yeah. And so Claw fits in there too. Yeah, it's just, but this is also a card they can't really buff
No.
because it's just it stacks too much. I mean, maybe they can go to 6 across the board. What if they make him a 6/6 that makes 6 cost or 6 power bots?
Well, I mean, you'd start with him being a 6/6 that makes fives. So just his body's more important.
Right.
And maybe you even go like 6/7 that makes 5 power Doom bots before you distribute to the bots.
I'd be
But
interested in that. Yeah.
yeah.
But he doesn't do what he used to. It's a damn shame.
Infinite.
So okay, I know you're gonna focus on the idea that he's just like the generic big card people try to like high roll into
Yeah.
too often,
Yeah.
like with War Machine and things like that, and of like Hella, Jubilee, all that. Okay,
Exactly. Also
I'm
Black
gonna
Knight.
say he's overrated in the sense of his. I think Tesla is appropriate. By the way,
Yeah.
I think he's overrated as far as the character goes. Even though he only has like 4
Okay.
total appearances in all of Marvel Comics,
Oh,
but
amazing.
in the Snap community, especially because they added the voice line of like so happy,
Yeah.
like and like
People love this guy.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Um, he's up there with Jeff as far as most overrated aesthetic. Like just
Okay.
cute guy. Like you call Jeff cute little guy, and you can call Infinite a cute little guy for different reasons,
Yep.
right? And I like it. I like that they're cute. I think Jeff's adorable. I think Infinite's adorable. But I think their level of how adorable they are and how much people like love the cards for that is overrated. I think that is the most overrated aspect of both of those cards, actually.
Interesting.
Not even their gameplay mechanics, just
Oh
how
man.
adorable people find them.
I think he's overrated because like the power is so alluring, but then he's a brick in hand and so many times when you don't get the combo together.
Yeah,
And when your fallback is something like Red Hulk, where when you get the combo together, it's just a little bit less power, but it's still like a winning amount of power. But then you also have the flexibility of just being able to throw it down on its own. It's that's where I see Infinite just being a little bit too greedy, but still
yeah.
played and attempted a lot.
I do think that Infinite's a card that like if you're running it, you need multiple ways to get it to work. Like you like in Hella, at least you typically used to see, not anymore really, still sometimes, like Dracula, where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's stuck in hand. I have a chance to like still have it get a hit with Dracula. As well as hit it with Jubilee or Hella. And otherwise, like, it's just like I do agree. It's kind of like Artemis Over. It's a little too greedy. It's actually it might just be the greediest card in Marvel Snap.
Okay.
Do you think there's a greedier card than Infinite?
And do I think there's a greedier card than if? I mean, maybe Mystique.
Well, really?
Yeah, Mystique and the Wong. The
Yeah,
Wong
but
and Mystique.
Mystique's usually also accompanying many other ongoings. Like I rarely see an ongoing list, even one with Wong, that only runs Wong as the target for Mystique.
I see a couple. You also have that ongoing Affliction deck that'll run Mystique, and that feels greedy as well. I don't know.
It does?
Infinite's definitely up there. Oh yeah.
And the ongoing Affliction one with like
Yep.
why?
Thank you.
I've never seen it in that one. That's
I
crazy.
have. Yeah.
My favorite thing is I have seen someone do Mystique after Man Thing and then be shocked that Mystique was getting the negative herself.
Yeah.
It's like, huh, who knew?
That is how that works. She's a
Yep.
3 cost.
All right. So the next one you mentioned because, well, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, so we were just kind of going through, rounding out our list with a very high played card in Spider Ham with a negative win rate. I think this is largely like it's the wrong meta for Ham, or at least it
Mm-hmm.
was, especially alongside Mobius. Because if the opponent runs Mobius, the pig is free.
Pig
Second
is
Dinner has
free.
had so many ramifications of the cost of the pig. They started at 4 when Zabu was everywhere, and then they moved it to 0 when Mobius is now everywhere. And it's like, come on, you can't
Why?
win.
Why does the pig have to have a
I
set
don't
cost? Why can't the pig
understand.
just
It's
be
like,
the cost of the card that got hit?
yeah, they wanted to be cute by instead of it being Leech, which it should have just been Leech, they turned it into this pig with the stat line and ability and the cost that could then be malleable.
I do like that it has a flavor text of oink 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 though.
Well, yeah,
That
but
can't be denied.
that's
No
but I
one's
don't like
talking
that.
about
I
that as
don't
far
like
as a
that
board.
Mobius and Shadow King interact with it. That's like the spirit of the
Oh
card
no,
should just be that this is 0 hitting your opponent's hand.
hold on. Shadow King is awesome when you Shadow King someone's pig, because sometimes you'll accidentally pig their
Take it or
Infinite.
leave it.
You'll pig their Infinite, and then they'll go Miss Marvel at you, and you're because you're like, oh, I just gave them a free thing, but then
Yeah.
you Shadow King that Infinite,
Right.
and it's 0.
Right.
That is awesome. Also, by the way, no one talks about how adorable Spider Ham is, or how adorable the Oink 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 flavor text is in the pig, but there's all this love for Infinite saying hello and Jeff just being Jeff. Like, come on, this is an unjust world. And for that, he's in your favorite thing for me.
Okay. Now, we threw in the last one here, Blink, without even necessarily deciding if we think she's overrated
Right.
at all. But we wanted to have a discussion on the newest card because she is seeing an enormous amount of play rate, and has had a couple different decks evolve around her. We had the ramp list. We now have the domino list. And then we have some other just like value decks that are slotting Blink in to be able to churn out primarily Leech, let's be real, but some other good hits as well.
Yeah, like Jubilee and stuff is still really good as well.
How should we preface the conversation? Do you think that she will get a nerf?
Yes, because they already considered it when we saw her originally get changed from a 5.7 to a 5.6 before she got inevitably pushed back up to a 5.7. Right. And when she was put down to a 5.6, even then before release, I was like, I feel she's going to be a 5.5 or a 5.4.
She could still be fine.
Because it's just so much power, right? Like I'll put it this way. You cannot justify her at 7 power or even at 6 power, in my opinion, when Annihilus was dropped from 7 to 6.
Or when Lady Deathstrike was dropped.
Correct. Because look at Annihilus. Annihilus is a great example to kind of use as a 1-to-1 ratio, because Annihilus also pairs greatly with a 4 cost. And that 4 cost makes a -10. And Annihilus ends up being a 16-point swing.
Yep.
Right?
And take away their board space.
Blink combining with Jubilee or Leech removes the downside of both of those cards in being a 1 power to supply you amazing potential ramp, right, in Jubilee, or a 2 power in supplying you amazing interaction with your opponent's deck, and removing those criteria and those balance decisions and guaranteeing at the minimum for your deck most likely 10 power. Or like 9 power, whatever, right? If Blink's the only 5 cost you're running, especially, then you're guaranteeing going right up to 6, and that's a situation where Doctor Doom is very good,
right?
Because it's a free Doctor Doom. That's where it's worth running, or it's a free Infinite. Like some of our overrated cards in this list, some have become a lot better. Not you, Spectrum. Sorry, not you.
We're not using you. Yeah. I feel like this is pushing our conversation on she's actually not overrated. Like she's justifying her play rate.
Well, that's interesting to say, because we do have Loki on the list. We have, some pretty impressive cards on the list, like Jeff as well. And just because she's maybe due for a nerf, she's still played a lot at the moment. And
that's the next question is, do you think that her meta share will stay steady or will taper off?
I think she's probably going to stay pretty steady. I think it's pretty easy to run her. Well, because especially
it's like a Legion takeover, right? The 5/7 that's getting slotted in general use to most good card decks, and is punchy enough to like stay in there.
Well, here's another reason why I think Blink's going to stick around for a bit. Look at the next upcoming cards.
Yep.
Namora is a 5 cost that competes with her, and probably very likely doesn't go in the same deck, I would imagine. Right. One that a lot of people I've seen say are going to skip on, especially because the weak itself is pretty weak with Black Knight and Scar. And then you have Sasquatch with admittedly another kind of weak. Ravonna is the best card, I think, in this week because she goes on so many different options.
Yeah, no,
Havoc is a potentially candidate for our underrated list.
Yeah.
I
Nope.
think he has a little bit something to him, but I get it. And Sasquatch feels like a bounce card and
And
doesn't really
bounce
feel
overall
like
right
it goes in
now
a
is
lot more.
yeah.
Maybe it can go in Thanos, but Thanos does a lot of one at a time stuff as opposed to like play 3 or 4 stones in a single turn. So it doesn't feel like Sasquatch is going to do great there. So that's where you just look at bounce. So the opportunity cost to play Blink without much competition as far as other cards being played makes me think she's going to be sticking around.
Yeah. I think
And
she's
she's just powerful.
yeah. I think that she's going to stay and that she's actually not overrated. Like she's actually one of the best things to be doing right now.
I think so too. Yeah.
So
Um,
do we go your favorite thing, or are we saying not overrated at all? In fact, you should try and work her into more decks. Like, do you think that there are actually undiscovered decks that she should be going into?
I forgot an L. Or no, I think I just fat fingered. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. She's not overrated. However, give it a couple weeks. We'll
Yeah,
see.
right.
Even if she gets nerfed, like again, like you could be a good card and be overrated.
Yes,
Jeff's a great example of that.
exactly.
And you can be a horrible, awful card and be overrated. Pixie's another great example of
Sorry to be. What? No. How dare you?
that. Oh, I gotta get one
My
last
rank last
jab in on
season with
her.
a Pixie deck,
Oh,
top
and
72 in the world.
was it Pixie doing all the work, or was it the Annihila's
So
little
here's the thing
package?
that I was going to bring up on Pixie. You made me come back around to this.
Mm-hmm.
On ranked ladder specifically, having a high roll condition is actually very beneficial to climbing, and Pixie provides that. In Conquest, not nearly as good
Yeah.
or as valuable to your deck, but in the ladder, it is actually really good. So,
Well, I will give you a little bit of an argument and push back on that because I could say that your evaluation of that, comparing ladder to conquest, could be a psychological thing where because there's many games within conquest, you can easily say, oh, in the 5 or 7 matches of that conquest game, Pixie was let alone impactful, but like not even just seen in my hand, except for one of those games. So her impact and level of impact I can adequately measure as being pretty low because within that one conquest match, it's easy. But with the very nature of playing ladder and going one game at a time, it makes those games feel a bit more of a vacuum experience rather than being able to accurately discern one game in ladder from another as you can in Conquest. It's a bit easier to let them blend together. So when Pixie does have impact, it feels like a larger impact because it's a single game stake of winning and losing rather than just, oh, I can dip out of this match or this game, I'd rather in Conquest and come back for the next one to get more cubes. Does that make sense?
no, I mean, here's the thing. My
See what I'm
personal
putting down?
experience on ranked with Pixie has been
My
really,
man
really
just
good.
said,
But
nope, doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
no, you're not in it.
All right. I
But
think
I
I'm hitting
also
it.
married her to Mobius, which also in the meta was
Well, you
really good
should.
for me.
I
So
think it was crazy to ever see a list that was running Pixie and not running Mobius.
yeah, exactly.
Like they are like if your goal is to make a Pixie list, your deck starts with 2 cards, Pixie and
Yeah,
Mobius.
you're in there with those two. It's a 10 card list with those two.
I still stand by what I'm saying. For those of you who are listening, please let me know in the comments down below if I make sense on this part, and that Teddy is just being salty that I'm attacking his girlfriend here.
She has a little. It's not really spoilers. You'll get to see her in X-Men '97. She has no
Oh,
lines, but you will get to see her.
no lines.
Yeah,
She's there though. All right.
we
Looking ahead
touched
to
on. Yeah, Namora.
looking at next week. This is a card that you and I are pretty excited for.
I hate it, but I kind of have to pump the brakes now on the Namora train. I was picking up so much steam, and now it's a Leech at a 4/2. I'm like, I don't know if we can do this.
Well, Teddy,
Can we do
lucky
this,
for
Brad?
you.
Yeah.
Next Thursday is an OTA. Maybe, just maybe, Second Inner sees the error of their ways and says, you know
Could
what?
it be?
We makey a mistakey.
This is like going to be the Hercules fastest turnaround on a change.
We've seen it before.
We have.
I mean, to be fair, Leaders wasn't that long. I mean, it was like maybe a month, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't super long when they made Leader a 6/7, and they're like, yeah, we did a really bad thing here. Did a really bad thing.
And we're sorry, but
No,
we'll do it again. 4-2
it's
Leech.
unlikely the sea
Yep.
leech could change that quickly. There's no way there's enough data to be gained from that, especially with Blink being in the meta and those two
I
pairing
don't
so well.
know if the data is people commenting on the Discord and the Reddit, I'm quitting Snap because of Leech. Maybe there's enough data.
Yeah, player retention is a thing, I suppose, which they'll never admit that would be an indication of, like, I mean, they say like fun is a thing that they measure, but only in accordance with proper data to suggest a card is too strong. Then
Yeah.
they use that as additional leverage to like maybe influence a change.
Right.
But it's never the other way around, where it's
They
discourse first, then data
yeah.
second.
They have, I mean, like, old Spider-Man had such a negative play pattern that
They even said that with Eliath.
and Goliath, exactly. And now here's the thing that I would up the ante for why Leech should be changed very quickly is that Spider-Man and Goliath were fun to play and not fun to play against. Leech is not even that fun to play. Like, I'm doing
No.
it because I feel required to. If I have a deck with Leech in it, I'm just like, he's meta. I have to do this. Like, I'm not even that happy. Like, turn 4 Leech. Gotcha. Snap. Blink.
What if
Wow.
one other option?
Okay.
What if they can leave them at a 4 cost?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't work because it doesn't stop the 5 cost like they want. I'm trying to think of ways to remove this blink interaction while still hitting
Yeah.
5 costs like they want. Now, I was gonna say, what if it didn't occur till the end of turn 5?
What if he became the true? Oh, you could have that something that's a time bomb.
But then you
What if it
can
was like a
still.
true action card? You play Leech, he goes off, and then he dissolves. He removes himself from the game, so he cannot be interacted with other cards. Does that
Interesting.
feel lame, or does that like?
What? Okay. What if he like blows himself up like you
Yeah.
say, but leaves behind a token? So that
Oh,
way
okay.
you still get something out of him, like a 2/2,
Yep.
right? Um, but like again, it's a little inelegant of a way to get
Right.
around this blink thing. But I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that the reason we're seeing so much of him is because blink makes him so much better.
It does.
And I think I don't want to see him changed and die for that reason first, at least in a drastic way, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Unless we can get a version of this that works in a vacuum the same way for Leech himself, but doesn't work with Blink. Like, I would want to see the data and what represents that, or what represents that data, and like his meta share and stuff. If Blink is just not a thing with Leech.
Right. We'll see. We'll see what route they want to go. But in the meantime, Namora going to be risky with Leech out there. He's going to be able to take her down before she can hit the board. If you do get her to the board, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how good she is going to perform. And no, she is actually has, in our opinion, weak synergy with Namor and
Yeah.
Orca and these other solo lane tower cards. And she has a much better synergy with more of a junk goblin kind of gameplay and some of the ongoing effects, like, say, Iron Man, Ms. Marvel, that can still put down insane power with only a few bodies. Claw, very
Claw's very
nice.
good there. Yeah.
Also, those other ongoing cards might do well enough against Leech, like a low tempo Leech play, that it could elevate that deck's experience.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I
the Iron Man and the Goblins all synergize with Renslayer, so you can get the Goblins out before Leech comes into play.
Yep. I was thinking like a
Then,
turn 2 Renslayer, turn
yep,
3 like goblins, like even on 4, and then turn 5 Namora. I could see maybe Goose being in the list too.
yeah, tighten down the reins on what the opponent can do, and then buff
Could
that
do
Goose to a
Cosmo as well.
2/7. Cosmo control, you can lean pretty heavy into control and then buff these bodies. Like the Namora, if she buffs 2 cards, right, she's hitting that 516 stat line, and then she has on reveal synergies if you want to go farther than that. we'll see how well that sets her up.
Yeah, she's gonna be an interesting card to kind of play around with. I'm excited for her. I still am. Just gonna trust that I don't see enough Leech. Maybe I just hit that pocket meta for the day where like enough people are just not doing it. Maybe they get bored or something. But yeah, I think there's a. I don't know. I see the reservation with with Leech. We'll see. But I got nothing else.
No, and then we've hit our hour 10. I feel like covered everything that we wanted to. So we'll see you guys
agree.
for Namora testing on both of our streams. Maybe I'll even see you guys on the screenplay card tables. Brad, do you have any space in your life to try another CCG? Or are you pretty locked in?
Well, I'm actively doing Lorcana content right now.
True.
So that's tough. But I don't know. I might be able to fit it in. I haven't really been playing Magic, so it's not like that's eating up. It's just really right now it's Snap and Lorcana. I think I can maybe find one. Like I really wanted to try Flesh and Blood. But like that
was all over that.
That one I'm just like that one's gonna take up too much of my life if I end up enjoying it.
Well, screenplay, quick to pick up. I think it has a lot of unique factors, so I'd actually be really curious what you think of it.
Sure. It's on Steam?
Yep.
Is it free?
For free.
Let's go. Yeah, I'll probably give it a try this weekend. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to go on patreon.com/can'tstopsnapping if you want to see this stuff early. Drop a sub and a like, all that good stuff on YouTube so you can have a reason to come back. Of course, we have the regular episodes that come out here every single week, but on top of that, you get bonus content that while you can get it early on Patreon, it does find its way to the YouTube channel at the end of its life cycle on Patreon. So this is the only place you can get it if you want to see the most recent one, which is how to play Bounce, where we do very well with it. Yeah, check that one out. Otherwise, we love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you guys next week.
Don't stop snapping.
Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast hosted and produced by Brad Saffer and Teddy Ninja, originally created by Michael Thurman.